Hi there, Scott from the Electric Recording Lab again, and continuing on in my series of prepping for the studio. Lastly, wanted to talk about vocals. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, this is the main reason for all the other stuff, really, and it's why most of your listeners are listening to you. They want to hear you say something. They want that emotional transaction that occurs when engaging with a song. They're engaging mostly with the lyric. I mean, it's, the rest of the stuff is why they're listening to you and not somebody else necessarily, like genre-wise, your amazing guitar stuff or the drums and all that sort of thing. That's part of why they're listening, to your particular style of music. But I think the primary reason that they're listening to you is the vocal. And so we need to pay a lot of attention to the vocal as we are in the studio. It kind of is the make or break in some ways. For me, it's a bit of a deal breaker. If great production, all the rest of it happens, and and then the singer comes in and it's not my vibe, I'm out. And I think that's true for most listeners. It takes a while to record a good vocal, usually. Back in the old days, the whole band would top to tail a song. And to some extent, so would the vocalist, even if they were into the era of multi-tracking, some of the greats, lots of legendary stories about singer just go and they sing the whole song through. It's actually fairly rare, particularly in the multi-track world, which is where we are. And so we can spend a lot of time working on a vocal with the purpose of getting a great performance. I mean, it's really key, the performance aspect. So that, again, that emotional transaction aspect. But also, from a technical point of view, is it pitched properly? Is the timing on it right? Those two real key aspects. The approach to recording vocals, we don't have to go from top to bottom. Often what we'll do is we'll approach the less taxing parts of the vocal first, the things that have less push and less effect, I suppose, on your throat and on your ability to sing. So often we'll record verses first and then move on to things like the chorus and other bits. But having said that, it depends on the singer and on the song and how we're going to go about things. We might just do multiple takes of verse 1 and then move on, and then do multiple takes of verse 2, and then afterwards we'll go in and listen to those 4 or 5, 8, whatever it was, takes that we did and cut that together into what we call a comp or a compilation of what are the best bits, the best way you sang that line or that word. There's a lot of, really high detailed editing we can do. Some people prefer to work that way. Some people, I work with a few singers that will actually cut it together as we go. And what we're listening to at the end of each section is the keeper. So we will drop in on particular lines or particular words or whatever it is that we're looking to improve on. And it's always that improvement idea. Is it better? Has it got the emotion that we're hoping to, and the energy that we're hoping to deliver in that particular section? And then we can move on to things like choruses. And I'm just talking here about the top line, the main vocal part. As we move through, we might also look at some of the additional vocal aspects of that. And again, we might do the top line first, and we might, in sections, look at the top line and then build the bits around that. Because there's a lot of vocal techniques that we can use in the studio to help enhance the performance and help the listener to stay engaged. And they are things like doubles. Like we can literally re-sing exactly what you've done, and we can wind that up and down underneath or at the same level as the main vocal. And the effect of doubling kind of gives it a phasey, sort of shimmery sound, and the degree to which it matches volume-wise the main vocal will depend on how much of that effect is heard. It also sort of has the effect of just thickening the vocal, giving a bit more strength to it, which can be, again, useful depending on where we are in the song and also the singer. So that's one thing that we can do. Now, obviously, doubles, it sounds easy. I'm going to get you to sing exactly what you just sang, but that can be a really tricky thing. We need you to line that up 100%. That can take a fair amount of effort. All right, and that's why we might hit that later. We might just work on our top line first and come back and go, right, let's hit some doubles in these sections. Because there's a lot of concentration required. You've got to really kind of learn. If you've done any little idiosyncrasies or little twists or little flicks on the back end of notes, we need those as well in our doubles. So doubles is one of the techniques that we use, and harmonies are the other thing. Now, there's a couple of ways we can use doubles and harmonies. And always when I'm tracking with a vocalist, when we're starting a new track, I'm thinking about where this lives in the mix. And there's three main positions from a pan perspective, and panning is where that particular track lives in the stereo field, either everywhere from left up to center to right. Now, one of the main schools of mixing sort of has those as three distinct positions and really doesn't live anywhere in between those three. So LCR is the method. All rules, are there to be broken as well, but you're broken with really good reasons. So I'm always thinking from that perspective, when we're tracking a vocal, is this going to sit under the main vocal, or is this going to sit out to the side? Now, often when we stick stuff out to the side, we double them. Because we want that full sound. Not always, but this is pretty common. So your double, we could actually do triples, essentially. So the main vocal, and then we've got our doubles, and we stick them out left and right, and then we wind them up together out there. And it has a slightly different a sound to it than just having it stacked under the main vocal. So, there's a couple of different things. And that's a pretty common pop trick, particularly in the chorus, to do doubles or triples and then have them sort of stick up with the main vocal but out to the side. And it just creates this width on the vocal. And that's something, one of the many ways when we hit the chorus, we're trying to give it a bit of a lift. And if you're doing little lift on a lot of different things, including the vocal, you're helping to create a large or big effect when we hit the chorus. So it's sort of, has that excitement aspect that we're often trying to achieve with a chorus. Now, for harmonies, much the same as what we do with doubles, we can stack that up underneath the vocal, from a volume perspective. And harmonies, obviously we can go below or above the main line or the main melody. Below tends to just sort of add body and thickness to the main vocal, and above tends to add a bit of sparkle or a bit of highlight to the main vocal. And you don't have to do it on all of them. Sometimes it's great to stick a little high harmony on just a line, in the verse or in the chorus. And it's sort of what it does is it turns the spotlight on for that particular line. And so you're kind of adding emphasis, like sticking italics onto or bold onto a word in text. It's how we do this from an audio perspective. Now, or we can stick them out left and right. And then we would typically double them. So here's your high harmony, here's the double of that, right? And here's your low harmony, here's the double of that. And then when we pan them out wide, we add width to the vocal. And so you've got your main line here coming up the center, and then you've got your harmonies, and they coming at you from out the sides a little bit. And so it just becomes this big group of people talking to you and singing to you. We might have just a really sparse melody vocal only in the verse, and then in the chorus we add a double and the wide harmonies. But we can do variations of that in the verse as well. Just sort of add interest to particular lines, as I say. So there are things to think about from the sort of studio technique point of view. from a sort of, I suppose, a health or a physical management point of view, before you come in to sing vocals in the studio, obviously good sleep is really important. Being well rested. Your body is the instrument when you're a vocalist. So how you've treated your body will impact the vocal and the quality of the vocal and how you sound. So good rest. Things like being well hydrated are really important. So having like water with you, I think, is a useful thing. I like to use warm water. I think that helps to kind of soothe the throat a bit as I go along. I don't have great vocal technique, to be honest with you. I'm not really a singer per se. But I like warm water with a bit of honey in it even, and it just helps to soothe the throat a lot better than just tap water, sort of room temperature water. Tend to not recommend cold water because that kind of, constricts stuff. So, when you get cold, your body automatically sort of tightens up, and we're not looking for that in the throat. We want the, bit of flexibility in your vocals. Before you come into the studio for a singing session, you should avoid milky drinks. So your coffee in the morning, go black. And we want to maintain hydration. So even things like that with caffeine reduces hydration or the ability to hydrate. So, we should minimize that typically. Alcohol, much the same, and smoking and vaping, they can dry out your throat. All right, so they're things just to consider. I'm not moralizing about any of that sort of stuff, but you're, as I say, your body is the instrument. So how we treat your body in the lead up to the session can affect the quality of the vocal, and your ability to deliver on that front can be affected. So rested, hydrated, really the key physical aspects before you come into the studio. All right, and that's really kind of it for the vocals thing. Keep the questions coming through. I've had some great thoughts come through from different people. And if you've got any queries about doing a vocal session, then feel free to message me or book some time. And we'll go through that process and build your skills in that area, and also get a great vocal sorted out for you. All right, make sure you make great art. Ciao.